We tend to think that Muhammad's and Islam's rise in the Middle East and uh, Arabia was inevitable. In reality, many factors helped to lay the groundwork for the rise of Islam through Muhammad. Some of these factors were that Muhammad lived in an area outside of the major empires of the area, that secondly, that both the Byzantine and Sassanid empires had grown weak, and, and finally, that division within Christianity weakened its ability to defend itself. So, firstly, the lack of outside influence helped pave the way for Muhammad to spread Islam. And Arabia was very isolated from the Byzantine and Roman Empire and the Sassanid Empire because of its climate, which prevented invaders. As Firoz al-Khattab said, quote, they, the Romans, attempted to expand their realm in 24 BC with an invasion of the Arabian Peninsula, but it turned out to be an utter failure. The famed Roman legions could be effective in Mediterranean climates, but not the deserts of Arabia. And because they couldn't invade it, but there were still a lot of people living there that could attack them, the Romans and Sassanids, who couldn't invade them, instead just set up buffer states between them and the Arabian tribes. And some of these buffer states was the Fakhamids and the Ghasnids. So the Ghasnids was a tribal state in northwestern Arabia and was allied to Rome and acted as a buffer state for Rome. And the Ghasnids were established in about 220 AD, and they really helped keep the they really helped keep the Romans from being attacked by Arabian invaders. And the Lakhmids acted the same for the Sassanid Empire. And the Lakhmids were established in about 300 by the Sassanids, and they acted as a buffer state for them too. And these two states, like unintentionally, like they gave a lot of Arabic arts, like they sponsored a lot of them, but they also gave a lot of Arabs experience in government, which helped Muhammad actually to set up his kingdom with an effective government, because he had people who already knew how to govern a state. And some of these Arabian tribes and states that Rome and the Sassanids were trying to keep out were the Hijaz, the Kinda, the Yemen, Oman, or otherwise known as Azdi and Himyar. And because Rome and the Sassanids weren't influencing the area, Muhammad was actually able to influence them and unite them themselves using Islam and the Quran by basically pleasing everyone through that text, because the Quran was not only a religious text but also a political text. Like, it basically pleased everyone by giving everyone a little bit piece of the pie. Like, it gave Christians respect, it gave polytheists or like non-believers political theory to glean from the Quran, and it gave Muslims or new converts a way to follow government and to set up government. So secondly, with the Byzantine Sassanid War in 602 to 628 AD, it was the final turning point that weakened both sides enough to be conquered easily. So this war was very bloody, and it started in 602 AD by Khosrow II when it attacked the Byzantine Empire, when the Byzantine Empire executed an ally of Khosrow. And Khosrow was able to conquer Syria, Jerusalem, and Alexandria like really easily, because like the Byzantine Empire was very divided, and there were provinces during the war that were trying to break away, so there were tons of rebellions, and the Byzantine Empire couldn't really fight a big war and also keep down the rebellions at the same time. And so they lost a lot of territory while trying to destroy the rebellions. So Khosrow and the Byzantines, they didn't surrender when someone in the rebellion called Heraclius the Younger, he eventually took control of the Byzantine Empire, and he overthrew the emperor, and he refused to submit, to the Sassanids, and he started to build an army by devaluing the currency and stripping Constantinople of all its riches, which wasn't very good. And so in 622, he attacked Cappadocia, cutting off the supply chains and communications, and forcing the Sassanids to attack him without any assistance. And so Heraclius had a brilliant victory, but it was at a very, very high cost, as stated by Rodney Stark. Quote, "Both Byzantium and Persia were exhausted by many decades of fighting one another, during which each side had suffered many bloody defeats." And really, this war weakened both sides extremely. And eventually, with the aftermath, the Sassanids were further weakened by economic decline, heavy taxation, and unrest, and they eventually just collapsed and came under control of Arabian attacks spearheaded by Muhammad. And then with the Sassanids destroyed, Byzantium, a few years later, after just trying to get its feet back on the ground after regaining its territory, it lost its territory again to the Arabians. It lost Syria, Armenia, Egypt, and North Africa in 600, in the mid 600s, and that war really just opened them both up to major invasion really easily. So finally, major Christian heresies in the East opened up the door to Islamic conquest. So in around 600, there were lots of heresies that riddled the Middle East and North Africa in the Byzantine Empire. And this really kind of started with Vandal Arianism. And so Vandal Arianism was adopted in Africa as opposed to Catholic Christianity because the Byzantine Empire and the Catholic culture, after many centuries, became unpopular and undesirable to North Africans. So they adopted Vandal Arianism to make their own identity separate that of Byzantium. And so they became more heretical, and because they didn't view Christ as both God and man, and because Islam was consistent with the North African view of Christ. Islam only viewed Jesus as a prophet, and North Africans only viewed Jesus as just a man. It was consistent in their worldview, so they didn't find that many problems with Islam, as opposed to if they found major problems that would, if they conquered them and the Islams made them convert, that they would go to hell, that they would they would be more prone to defend their faith if they knew that if there were major heresies that were self-evident to them. And they didn't, and the North Africans didn't really view Islam as a problem to them because of their views of Jesus. Because, as C.J. Spiel said, quote, conversion from Arianism, the bulk of North Africa's population, from about 450 to 670, to Islam was an easy step. So because it was such an easy step to go from Vandal Arianism to Islam, like if that step was harder, they would probably resist it more than if it was so easy. So that's why this weakened view of Christianity helped Islam conquer North Africa and the Middle East. So today, while we think that Muhammad's and Islam's rise was inevitable, in fact, there are many factors that laid the groundwork for the rise of Islam through Muhammad. Some of these were that he lived outside an area of the major empires, that both the Byzantine and Sassanid empires had grown weak, and that finally division within Christianity and Vandal Arianism in North Africa weakened the Byzantium Christianity to defend itself. Thank you.